And the ovals have commenced here for Friday night primetime here for RaceSpotTV. You are voting for the action that we are showing you on your screens every Friday night, and we've had all sorts of different categories of racing, but so far we haven't come to the ovals. And not only is it an oval today, it is the super speedway of Talladega. It is going to be fast, it is going to be furious, with IndyCar action coming your way around a 2.6 mile oval. There's going to be so much slipstream, so much action for the 22 drivers around this track. Myself, Cameron Roger, and Zach Sweeney bringing you through the action. Zach Johnson on cameras behind the scenes as well. And Zach Sweeney, it's going to be pretty frantic. I'm expecting some chaos, but let's see how this one goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've been to an oval so far this season. We've had a couple of GTs, we've had a Rallycross twice, so I think it's the oval's turn. And of course, IndyCars. We were meant to have Road America. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite have them, so it's their time to get their shine in this spotlight. And really looking forward to it because, yeah, the IndyCars around a super speedway. It's going to be fast and a lot of a strategical gameplay in it as well. It's only 45 laps long as the race, but still a big factor in terms of strategy.
Yeah, and it's certainly the longest oval as well. So those 45 laps, of course, add up to quite a bit of distance around here, about 100 miles for the race today. And of course, with the new model spec IndyCar, it's been around for a few years now, providing the action for tonight as the drivers go around their qualifying laps. And the interesting part around this track is just how long that safety car start-finish line is around the tri-oval as well. On that final lap, the run out of turn 4 all the way through the tri-oval, and then just a little bit further as well, could be a big slipstream factor in this race. But for sure, the qualifying is going to slightly matter for the first couple of laps. But Zach, I'm sure the order is going to change quite a bit throughout this race.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not going to be one of those ones where if you qualify pole, you're going to finish first, because absolutely not. The slipstream in of itself, the draft means that, those that lead the way are going to suffer a little bit more in terms of fuel when it comes to the pit strategy. That is going to allow those behind to catapult their way through, but also look out for cautions. We were able to have full course yellows in this IndyCar Fix series. So again, look out for those that might have had a bit of an incident to be able to come back through, or those that didn't quite qualify so well to be able to work their way back through. And as you say, that runs the line on that last lap. It's so long, you just get that slingshot all the way down, and expect them to be quite close when we get to sort of that final portion of the race as well. It's for sure an unknown. We're not quite sure as to how it's going to pan out just yet, but we can definitely make some safe assumptions.
We certainly can. 22 drivers on your way, and here is the grid. Pinheiro leading way from Van der Sante. He seems to be coming around to all these Friday night primes, which is good to see. DeMage there in third place, followed by Sanders in fourth. Strickland and Bianco rounding out the top 6. And as you would expect, 5 Americans in the top 6 there. Then we've got Akabuzi there in seventh place, followed by Birrell and Irwin Jr. rounding out the top 9, with Forsyth in 10th place. Morales and Likens rounding out the top 12 as well. Then we have King and Franzoni there in the top 14. Newsom, Hudson in the top 16, and Lynchburg and Jeff Murray rounding out the top 18, with Jan Arkenbolt there in the top 20. Adams and Aaron Hart there for your final place on the grid. And Zach, this is certainly going to be fast. All the drivers will be lining up behind the pace car for a formation lap as well. And I think it's going to be quite hard to predict this one, but we do know that it's going to be a pit stop during this race as well. And if that comes under green flags, that can always just mix up the order quite a bit.
It can, especially if there's a bit of a split in terms of strategy. We're expecting people to go sort of 27 laps if they completely rig the car all the way around, completely flat out with no fuel saving. And that gets them over half distance, so they can do a one stop in terms of just completely ragging the car all the way around. But again, we'll have to wait and see, because you do want to save a bit of fuel to have a shorter pit stop. And with cautions, the timing of which can also play a factor. If you come in under green, you're going to lose a lot more time than if you do when everyone's queued up behind the caution car. But yeah, strategy is going to be a big factor. Just being consistent and quick all the way around. It's not just a case of turning left. It's a case of turning left while going 200 miles an hour, focusing on the other 21 drivers around you, and also keeping an eye on your tires and fuel, because fuel's one thing. The tires you don't need to change, but they definitely will wear over the 45 laps that we have.
They certainly will. It's a fast track around here, and while the corners may be a little bit easier than you get on the smaller, shorter ovals, you are still going to be wearing them, and you're going to be caring about, especially that right side tyres, both the front and the rear. You're going to be hanging on to them a little bit throughout some of these corners, especially when you're trying to go side by side. And I would expect that this goes into more of a single file race rather than the two lines that you see in the NASCAR series around here. But certainly going to be a lot of games, Zach. I think people trying to get a slipstream buddy, maybe trying to save a bit of fuel here and there.
It's going to be sort of the aim of the game, I think, is to limit the amount of fuel that you're using. If you drop into sort of a lower engine mix, which they can do, no changes in setup, but they can change their engine mix throughout the race. They can deliver a little bit more or less power relative to sort of what they want from the engine. But yeah, it's going to be fairly interesting, I'm sure, as to what different people do. I'm sure we're going to get a wide range in terms of strategies. I'm sure there's going to be a number of them that do quite work, but I think the best thing to do is to just save a bit of fuel, limit your amount of time in the pit lane, because that is going to be the big time game. It's hard around a speedway to really gain time just by driving quicker. It's those times that you gain in the pit lane by limiting the amount of fuel you have to put back into the car that are really going to make the difference.
Indeed, and we got here the orange car on your screen of Pinheiro there, leading the way around turn 3 and 4. But of course, being such a long lap, the run to the line is going to be a big one, especially on that final lap. And of course, when the safety car pulls in and we get to that green flag action, getting yourself up to that top speed of well over 200 miles an hour in these Indy cars is going to be an important factor. And then we will see the 22 drivers try and put themselves in some sort of order for the 45-lap race that is coming their way. It is going to be a difficult one to predict, but those smarter drivers will be able to come out on top as the iRacing safety car goes to the inside there, and the drivers grid themselves up ready to go. Green flag racing here at Talladega as we come through the tri-oval. Pinheiro and Van der Sande on that front row. The number 1 and number 4 leading the way once the green flag is called, and then they will have to see who is going to come out on top. A long run to the start-finish line here. Look out for that. Green flag is underway, and the drivers pull out already, trying to go 3 wide in the mid-pack there, getting themselves into some slipstream, into some positions already, potentially. Car from the pit lane there in the background as well will be having to catch up. In the foreground, Pinheiro, though, holding on as Van der Sande tries to go on the outside here of turn number 2 on towards the back straight, but I think he might just have to pull in as the drivers behind start to push them along, using that aero push factor that can be had in these cars as well, as turn 1 seems to be having quite a clean start, Zach.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not settling into any single file anytime soon. There is Van der Sande going the long way round. He's followed by Sanders and Demage. They are, a lot of cars going 2 wide, even 3 wide in that fight for sort of 5th or 6th place. But Pinheiro holds on for lap 1, side by side between Sanders and Demage still as they round off now. Coming on to lap 2 of 45. Very short and sweet are these lap times, but they are settling into a low line and a high line, committing to it quite early. But it does seem that low line to be quite sort of more convincing in terms of pace at the moment, because they're significantly further ahead. But look at Sanders and Sant on that outside line, really now coming back into their own.
Yeah, they certainly are. That outside line might start to work, but as you say, that inside line seems to be working. One car going very high there, 3 wide for 3rd place, 4th place, coming around turn 4, as we're almost getting 3 trains now coming towards the start-finish line this time around. Sanders still trying to work his way up there through the field, and it's quite hard to work out who's going to come out on top on this one. As we come across the line, Pinheiro is still holding on to it, but still 3 wide there for that 3rd place. Sander on the inside, Sanders as well as Demage there in 4th place, trying to make some positions, and they're still trying to hold this outside line working. It seems to be working.
Yeah, somehow. I mean, using the full extent of the banking to rotate the car and keep the speed up, you have to respect it. But you can already tell in the difference in straight line speed, those that are using sort of probably a higher fuel mix as opposed to those that are trying to conserve a bit more fuel, because the difference is incredible. Those on the low line, though, benefiting very well of drafting off one another, but still there, Van der Sande in 3rd place, going to try and go to the outside, or is that Sanders trying to go to the outside? Pinheiro, though, still somehow holding on to that race lead, so you do have to respect it. But yeah, they are definitely not settling into single file, which is certainly not what we expected for sure. But yeah, in terms of pit strategy and things like that, that is definitely going to have to come into its own very soon. So you have to say they're going to have to start calming it down fairly shortly.
Yeah, and you mentioned those fuel mixtures. That is going to be an important battle. Maybe not, as it looks like Lycan's there all the way around the outside, trying to get himself to the race lead. Pinheiro on that inside line, holding it down towards the apron. As you now go 3 wide for the lead, Sanders on the outside. He's actually going to take the lead as you come through the tri-oval. Lycan's in the middle, Pinheiro down on the low line, and looks like Sanders there is going to be able to come towards the front, but no, as the inside line is obviously shorter, they just get that extra little car length here and there, and that's going to mean Pinheiro still holding it on the inside line. It's hard to work out, as there you see around the ovals the high line drops back a bit, and they're going to have to try and get some slipstream to get to the front again.
Yeah, they are indeed. Pinheiro is doing a fantastic job there in second place. Aaron Lycan's getting word that he's actually an official Indy 500 flag bearer. So not only can he fly the flag, he can definitely drive the car in the virtual world. Up there now in 3rd place, and definitely giving the likes of Pinheiro and Van der Sande a good run for their money. But already now on to lap 6 of 45. It doesn't take a lot for a lap around here. 40 seconds to get the full 2.5 miles long super speedway. But yeah, it's a lot of action already very early on. But you have to say the margin for error very, very slim. It must be so scary for those drivers going around at those speeds.
Yeah, I'm surprised we've seen this second train on the outside actually work for so long, and actually see a few drivers in the background, about 7 deep there in that outside line. It seems to be working, and it seems to be continuing around. One good thing about this track, of course, like quite a few ovals, it has those painted lines on the track, so you can just follow through that mid-line if you're on that outside train, and you can just use that as a reference for your turning points. But they are losing some ground now. They're dropping back a few car lengths as Pinheiro and Sant still try and hold it in that same position that they've had from the start, but Lycan's on that outside line really trying to make it work.
Yeah, they've committed to it early on. It is hard to bring it back down to the low side because there's just no space. As soon as you look to your left, there's already another car there, because look at how close they are using the slipstream to full effect. There is Lycans on the outside once again. He has got damage to his inside that has to worry about that. So the fight for P3 raging on still, but Lycans using that outside momentum just to catapult himself up. He's going to hope that Pinheiro brings it back to the right so he can benefit off that slipstream. 3 wide as they nearly go, but here comes Lycan now to the outside of Pinheiro. This definitely could fabricate into a move for the race lead.
It certainly could. Is it going to work though on the outside line? Trying to use that potentially some extra speed, but then as we mentioned, just lose that extra 1,000th of a second here and there, going a few extra meters, and it seems that Pinheiro can hold it once again, but Lycan certainly being pushed along there. I think that's Forsyth just behind as well, actually getting a good run there off turn 2 in towards turn 3, but at some point he's going to have to try and get to car length ahead and pull down to that inside line, otherwise they're just going to continue in this formation as it stands. But it's great to see all these drivers still staying so close together in these 2 trains at the front.
Yeah, and so clean as well. We haven't yet had a caution. There's a car zooming around the outside there. Not entirely sure as to who that is, but doing a fantastic job of just utilizing that high line and using that momentum to just swing himself 3 wide as they go through. That high line is working to an absolute treat. Is that the P5 man? Is that a Demange going to the outside? Oh my word. Now look at this run. Might get himself up into the race lead here. 3 wide. Pinheiro all the way to the low line. There is Lycans in the middle. And this is really kicking off now. I think that's Alexis Newsom actually all the way to the outside. What a move this could be. But yeah, surprising how they're able to fight this hard and this clean.
Yeah, it's great to see this. We weren't expecting quite so many moves being made over the course of the first sort of half of the race, but they really are trying to push themselves towards the front. Pinheiro there goes actually to the high line, trying to make that work, maybe just to block him off, comes back down to the low line in front of Sam, where he's been for quite a while now. And that's a red car, maybe Newcomb, as you were mentioning, just dropping back quite a lot now on that high line, just showing you the inside line really is the king around here in terms of track position. But if you can make that outside line work, it is potentially something to fight for. But we're going 3 wide once again for the race lead on the outside of turn 3 now, and it's going to be getting very close between these drivers, trying to make this work. Lycans is getting up there as well, and it's going to be difficult to see who's going to come off turn 4 the best.
Yeah, that is the ever-important run, and each lap is a test run for that final lap going on to the checkered flag, because each lap they are going to see how much they can gain, how close they have to be going through turn 4 to actually have a decent run, all the way through, to the checkered flag. So yeah, we're going to see how the race progresses. But yeah, lap 11 of 45, already a quarter of the way through. These laps are coming short and sharp.
Yeah, they certainly are, and these drivers need to obviously be working this one out as to where they are going to put themselves in. Sort of in the track position. We still got that 3-car trade on the outside line, trying to make it work, but as it stands there, Likens on that outside hasn't been able to drop down to that low line. Pinheiro still holding on to it, and is actually just seemingly making that one work. But it's the drivers in the background really who you need to look out for, making the moves and sort of just keeping it there and keeping themselves clean in the course of this race.
Yeah, consistency and just keeping your nose clean is going to be king, because anything can happen at any point. These cars are going to be on the absolute limit of what they can do each and every lap. And again, that very high line is working so well. That is Christopher Strickland just catapulting himself to the outside. It doesn't last for very long before everyone back on the inside comes back to the inside. But yeah, you can see still committing to that high line, just using, I don't even know what that is that's allowing him to do that. But at 3 wide, as again, they run through and he's going to actually go for the lead all the way to the high line. Likens and Pinheiro also side by side still, but it's just the same old lap after lap. People are running side by side trying to make up some positions, but still, as you said earlier, that inside line so dominant for track position because there's just no way to properly consolidate it. All you can do really is have a look.
Yeah, and I think the aero push is going to be a big factor for those cars on the outside. Strickland has to drop back into 3rd place in that outside train and try to make something work. But this inside line is seemingly working very well indeed as we come towards lap 14 of 45, already coming towards the 3rd marker of this race, as the drivers, of course, still work their way into a good place. And the likes of Sant there in that 2nd place, carrying that number 4 purple and white machine, he's really going to be looking out to be saving some fuel, as once again we're getting a run to the outside to try and make it 3 wide towards the front. And Likens and Sanders really trying to make this work once again. Can they drop down though? Can they get into that place as Strickland is sitting behind?
Yeah, people just deciding what they want to do. You have to commit to it. You have to trust your gut. This is Strickland riding on board with him. He's eyeing up Likens in 2nd place for the time being, but just lifting off a little bit, not going full beans, because you have to be able to give yourself time to react. 3 wide now as they run their way through, a third of the way through lap 15 of 45. We will be approaching the pit window in around about 10 or 12 laps time. We'll have to wait and see, because honestly, we're not too sure ourselves. Again, Strickland on that very high line, catapulting himself up a couple of places. Pinheiro, though, of everyone, because himself and Likens particularly, I think the whole field has been ebbing and flowing and really fluid in changing positions, but the only 2 really that have held firm are our current top 3, Pinheiro, Sant and Likens.
Yeah, they've been doing good to keep it there at the front. I think what helps is this inside line seems to be fairly stable with the cars that have been there, and they've been trying to make this work themselves. But these guys on the outside line still trying to keep it, and it's so awesome to see this 3 wide racing around turns 2 now on towards the back straightaway. But of course, they just lose that car length or so on the exit with the extra meters that they have to do. But you have to try and make something work, as Strickland is to the outside now, coming towards turn number 3. Likens in between, and Pinheiro as well down, still on that low line in that orange machine, but Strickland on the outside in the green machine, still trying to make it work. But this could also be just trying to also not fall back into the pack when they fan out there, trying to keep themselves towards the front.
Yeah, now ticking off yet another lap and continuing on. It's a new lap, the same fighting all the way round. I'm not entirely. It just seems so casual. It's something you don't get anywhere else really in motorsport, to have something like this, so chaotic, so crazy, so on the limit, and yet seeming so casual for them. It's almost as if it's what they do each and every day, and you know, they've just become so accustomed to it, because to get racing like this on a road circuit is so rare. I don't think I've ever actually seen it. You know, to have 2 wide all the way back through the field, only a couple of people sorting in single file. It's so intense, so crazy. You have to be 100% focused all the way around. You cannot afford any complacency, any dip in your concentration levels, because as soon as that happens, you've got 10, 15 people waiting to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, you absolutely do, and that is what oval racing is all about. As you say, they're doing well over 200 miles an hour. However, the speed differential and the variance in the lines, etc., is so minimal. That is how we get such close racing, because relatively speaking, compared to each other, there's not actually too many differences going on. And as long as you're smooth on the steering wheel, smooth on the throttle when you do have to lift off, it just keeps that flow, keeps that momentum going. And it is really starting to work for a couple of drivers there, as we're seeing this second line now form into a 5-car train. We did see as much about 7 or 8, but some drivers still dropping down again back onto that lower line as we go into lap 19. And you were talking about, Zach, getting towards lap 27. But of course, these drivers down on that low line, the likes of Forsyth, he sat there third in the low line train for quite a while. He's going to be saving so much fuel. I'm sure some of the drivers may be getting to lap 30 or so.
Yeah, potentially so. But again, it's you need to have a partner, because to run by yourself, you're going to lose so much time relative to those that have a slipstream partner, those that are running in a pack and are able to utilize the slipstream, because, yeah, to cut down on your drag and your air resistance around a circuit like this, a super speedway is going to make such a big difference. But already we're getting the first of a couple of people, Alexis Newsom, coming in to be sort of the first of the main top front runners into the pit lane. So this is pretty early, but it is doable. If you can do 27 laps on a stint, you're pitting early. Not entirely sure as to what they're going to gain from this, though. Some clear air might work on a road course, but I'm not too sure about an oval.
Yeah, let's see where they come out. Let's see how long a pit stop is around here. Do they sort of get involved? Is it a lap that they lose, or is it going to be less than that? But you're right, they will get some clean air. The worst part of that is they aren't going to be able to save any fuel from that. They're not going to be getting any slipstream from that, but it might be a position where they're actually taking less fuel, because they're still going to have some laps left in the tank already. So those going longer now, they're going to use those extras, or 5, 6, 7 laps of fuel, and they'll have more fuel potentially to take towards the end of the race as well. So there's always that balance that you are trying to do. So let's see if that works out for the early pitters, or will the long stint drivers eventually get towards the front? As Likens just momentarily goes to the front. Can he hold it? Can he pull it down in front of Strickland? No, Strickland there in the way, 3 wide as we come out to turn 3 and 4. Pinheiro is still holding it on the inside. Likens has to drop back, as we're seeing multiple drivers now diving it towards the inside as well, as we're seeing Dallara Santa's there trying to get all the way down to that pit limiter. Very important not to get a speeding penalty.
Yeah, it's so easy to do, because you're pulling off after going sort of 200 plus miles an hour. You have to slam on the anchors. Of course, these oval spec IndyCars aren't going to have the best of brakes, because they don't need them. They don't need to brake, but you have to get it slowed down for the pit lane. And the last thing you want is to come into the pit lane to get a speeding penalty, and then it's very easy to go to serve your speeding penalty and then to speed again. And that is definitely not what you want. Sant and Strickland running side by side. That fight for second, stuck on the outside line though, and there might be Forsyth looking to follow him through. No one of our front 5 coming in on this lap, so staying out yet again. But here comes Irvin and the number 15 just to his left also coming in. That is Archambault as well. So a number of quite early pit stoppers coming in. Is that because they're forced to, or is that because it's a conscientious choice just to try and pit early?
I think that's just a choice to do something different, but what it does is it really reduces the number of cars in this front pack. Of course, everyone pretty much still there. No one really dropped back, no cautions or anything like that just yet. Let's hopefully didn't just jinx that one, but it's still the leaders. Any of these drivers going to cycle? Looks like it's going to be Forsyth this time, I believe, the only car there coming into the pit lane, as the drivers still try and work their way towards the front a little bit further back. But as it stands, we've still seen those top guys stay in the same place, but it's actually Akabuzi there on the inside in that sort of neon colored car are really getting towards the front now.
Yeah, again, pit strategy is going to play a big factor. We'll have to wait and see. But one person, actually a number of people that have seen pretty much unfeasible is Pinheiro, Sant, and Likens. Pinheiro, most sort of particularly, he hasn't lost the race lead longer than sort of 5 seconds at a time. He seems so perfectly composed out in front, and that is what you have to have. Although he is going to be suffering in terms of fuel. Here comes a lot of people. Van der Sar, Akabuzi, Strickland, Jan also coming into the pit lane very close, just to not make contact with each other going in. But Pinheiro, despite the fact that he's been out in front, not benefiting off any sort of feasible fuel-saving tactics. There you go. He relinquishes the race lead to Likens, maybe just to save a bit of fuel. But he's been out in front this whole time. He's been taking the brunt of the air, and yet he's still one of those that are going slightly longer than the rest of the pack.
Indeed, and for the first time we saw an actual significant change for the lead of Likens for the back straight away, getting the lead, but Pinheiro straight to the front. Likens dives it down the inside, as so does Morales, but the pack still continues, so still fuel in the tank for some of these drivers, as we we get to 20 laps to go in this race here at Talladega for the RaceSpot Friday night primetime week 9 of season 4, where you are choosing what we show on the stream. There'll be a vote for the activities happening next week, so look out for that on the RaceSpot Discord. If you want to get yourself involved, of course, get into the top split of that category that we'll be racing. But as it stands, Pinheiro, 20 laps to go, 19 at the line, still leading the way. Will he pit this time around?
Only time will tell. A bit of lap traffic just in front of him as well from those that, of course, have pit. And here comes Earnhardt. Pinheiro, is that? No, it's just the 20 to go. I thought that was a full course yellow being called out. But no, that is very late on the brakes from Beryl, though. Getting all sort of sideways. Here is a car being stopped. That is Morales to the left-hand side, just caught on the apron there. That is a shame for him. And there is actually a pace car onto the circuit. So this could be a caution that is perfectly timed maybe for Pinheiro.
And I'm not sure what the exact rules are, because I do believe that the pit lane closes, but I think that they were committed enough to the pit lane that there shouldn't be any further penalty or anything like that, but certainly a potentially good time with a slightly shorter time. But where is it going to bring them out in the pack? That is going to be important. And for those who haven't pit, what is that going to do for them? Because of course everyone's now going to bunch up, and then when they pit they will then drop to the back of the bunch, so those who stayed out might now go all the way to the back and lose some track position. But of course we'll have to see how that one all works out. But it's that first caution of the day. We didn't exactly see the crash that happened, but obviously something happened there, I think, coming through the tri-oval section.
I have to take another look. This is him leaving the pit lane. This was Morales, I think, exiting the pit lane. The pack of cars there going through full speed. Does he just lights up the rears?
No.
Oh my word, that's dodgy. How on earth has everyone been able to find their way through? Pulls it back. Oh, I don't really know. I mean, any rejoin at a super speedway is going to be a little bit on the cusp, but just lit up the rears a little bit. I think just relinquishing the pit limit maybe, and then getting a bit caught out by the insane amount of power going to those rear wheels completely lights up the rears. Those guys, to be fair to that pack of cars, had some insane reaction times.
They certainly did, and there was also the sort of spinning around as well, trying to get back. That was 2 opportunities to get hit, and somehow he didn't. And everyone continues. That is something crazy. Yeah, just not even turning the steering wheel, just getting the boost from the twin turbo engine, and just losing the rear wheels. And unfortunately, that is what caused the caution. And to be honest, Zach, that isn't what I was expecting to be the first caution of the day. There's something quite tame compared to what could have happened.
Yeah, honestly, that was quite mild. That's the sort of the boring caution, I suppose. I was expecting sort of cars flying off here, there, and everywhere to bring out the caution, but no, we just got a nice little he spun coming out of the pit lane. That's brought out caution. But no, not complaining. Caution is a caution. Everyone's bunched up now, and it is sort of going to spice things up in terms of the grid lineup, in terms of the order. Aaron Likens at the moment leading the way. Alexander Van der Sat just in behind. Demage, Forsyth, and Sanders your top 5. A couple of drivers, I think, maybe onto the apron. I'm not entirely sure as to what he's doing there, but this is really spiced things up. And if you look, actually I can't even see where our previous race leader was. He's not. Yeah, Pinheiro down in P19 at the moment. He's lost out big time from this caution.
Yeah, definitely did. And that is the sort of the lottery a little bit that can happen with when these cautions get called out and where it puts you in the pack. Of course, we saw a lot of racing going on, and we're probably going to get something in the region of 15 laps racing towards the end, depending on how many laps it takes for this caution period to come back racing. And that is still plenty of time. But yeah, Pinheiro really losing out there with when the safety car and the pace car came out onto the track. And hopefully for his sake, he can work his way back. But for people like Likens and Sands, that pit stop has obviously been at a perfect time. They can go to the end, and they also have the track position.
Yeah, very true indeed. They are going to be perfectly poised to take this opportunity by both hands. But Pinheiro is the highest I-rated driver in the service. 6.7k he has. So he's definitely got some experience. He's definitely very quick. Our pole sitter, and didn't flinch at all for that entire first stint. You have to expect that he is going to try and find his way back through the field, at least to some extent. He's not going to hold back, because when something like this happens, when you've been this unlucky, you drive with sort of a fire in your heart. You want to redeem yourself, and you're going to try your absolute hardest to make that the case.
Yeah, you certainly are. Although this, as we saw in the earlier parts of the race, isn't necessarily a track where you can just the way that the racing has worked, at least earlier, it didn't seem to be that you could just completely go through the pack, but we did see potentially some more conservative driving as we're getting some lap runners being able to unlap themselves and get towards the back of the pack. But yeah, getting the way through, you're going to have to be more aggressive, more opportunities, maybe getting a bit of luck with some aero push as well, Zach. I think it's going to be, just that a little bit more difficult for the likes of Pinheiro to even get inside the top 10.
Yeah, potentially so, but again, only time will tell what he is capable of. The runs that we saw going straight to the high line, if he's in a pack, people are going to be bunched up a little bit more. He might be able to just soar all the way to the outside. Again, I'm not entirely sure as to how he's going to find his way through. There is probably going to be a way, but as you say, when there's not much separating them, there's not much differential between each car, it makes it so much more difficult to make that time up by yourself. He's going to have to rely on a couple of mistakes, a couple of opportunistic moves, and honestly just a little bit of luck. He deserves a bit of luck, to be fair, after what happened in the timing of the caution. But again, if he decided to pit like at the same time everyone else did rather than going a lap or two late, looking back in hindsight, he's going to be regretting that he stayed out that long.
Yeah, this is just the luck of the gods with these things, though, because maybe it would have worked if it went green. Who knows? But that is just how cautions happen, and it's so difficult to almost predict as well when someone does have a bit of a spin coming out of the pit lane. But the driver's getting closer as we've had an issue. That's Strickland there. Has he gone out or has he gone back? No, he has gone out as the pace car coming back in though. So we are going back to green. We'll have to try and work out what happened with Strickland, but the order has changed, but the goal has not. 16 laps to go here at Talladega. 1/3 of this race here for RaceSpot Friday night primetime, and we are about to go green flag racing once again, and Likens takes them away from the lead with Van der Sant just behind, and that is a good restart for Likens. Gets a massive jump, but I'm sure the cars behind will get the slipstream and will get pushing towards the front. Van der Sant there still in that second place, but it's the third and fourth of Demej and Forsyth who now start to battle for that third place as Forsyth does make the move.
Yeah, he does indeed get himself up into third place. A perfect restart so far for Likens. Here comes the move back from Forsyth to try and get himself up into second place. Sant going to give him the squeeze. There's Lichtenberg going to the high line, committing early and trying to sail his way to the outside. It could work indeed. Sant under a world of pressure. Forsyth up into second. Likes down to fourth. And yeah, a lot of chaos on this open lap. 3 wide, still 2 waiting in the wings, ready to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong. Forsyth barely in second place. 16 laps left to go. 15 make that at the line. Van der Sant up into P1. Forsyth with a really good restart, looking very punchy.
And indeed, Sant there doing a restart brilliantly, getting that lead. Likens almost hindered himself by getting such a good lead. Just got absolutely freight train, but now 3 wide in towards turn 3 for the lead around him. Demej there on that high line. Sant on the inside and Forsyth in the middle trying to make something work, but Sant is actually getting pushed along there by the car behind him, who we're trying to work out exactly who that is. Maybe Akabuzi trying to get involved as well as Sanders. I think that is actually on the inside line really trying to make it work. 3 lanes wide as we come across the start-finish line.
Oh my word, this is crazy is the only thing you can say, and even that does not do it justice. 3 wide in the background, a couple of guys running 2 wide just in behind that. It seems to be the norm to be running side by side. Fight for the lead as well with Forsyth side by side with Van der Sant, and Sanders trying to push him through, getting that inside line. But we've seen before, here's Pinheiro up into 7th place. How has he managed this? He's fighting right amongst the leaders, committing all the way to the right hand side, using the full extent of the Talladega banking to his advantage. But how has he been able to pull this one off? He's genuinely in contention for the lead here.
Yeah, he certainly has. The second pack on the restart were quite far back, but with this slipstream, they have got themselves back towards the front. And talking about the front, Sanders there, pulled out of the slipstream from second place, is now trying to go on the outside, getting pushed by Forsyth towards the front. And Akabuzi there on the inside has worked his way up into second place. But Pinheiro there, the second of the orange cars on the outside, pushing Demej towards the front as we're getting 3 lanes in towards turn 3. This is great racing here at Talladega. The driver's putting on a show for us, as it's going to be 12 to go at the line, but it's so difficult for that high line to make it work throughout the whole lap. They just lose those extra couple of car lengths in turn 4. And so as it stands, Sant leads across the line.
Yeah, but for now, it is always going to be provisional. You cannot predict a thing when it comes to IndyCar racing like this. 2 wide, 3, 4, 5 rows deep, even 3 wide in some cases is damaged, I think, trying to go the long way around. But as you say, you don't quite get the punch off the corner using that high line, which is going to be to their demise come sort of that final lap. So Sant, those commit to the inside line now are definitely going to be a lot better off on that very long run. We were talking about it in the pre-show throughout qualifying. That long run to the checkered flag off of turn 4 through the tri-oval is going to be the deciding factor. It doesn't matter how quick you are on that high line. If you haven't got the run, you're not going to win.
Yeah, this is insane. All cars within a second across the line as well, and that is what we want to see. That is why the IndyCar Series is so crazy, especially in the fixed setup version of that as well. All drivers just coming out here and pushing it towards the front. Forsyth there comes towards the outside, tries to make it stick on that outside line. Actually sort of makes it work. Into turn 3 he goes, trying to come down, pulls there in front of Sanders, gets himself up into that second place. So actually fighting for the lead, but Sant on the inside line manages to make it work as he gets pushed along by Akabuzi there on the inside lines. We're still 3 wide, and Pinheiro makes it 4 wide across the start finish line. 10 to go, and we still don't know who's going to win.
We do not at all. Pinheiro momentarily up into the race lead. How? You have to ask. He was down in P, sort of 16, 17, all bit of side-to-side contact, having to react to each other. That definitely could have ended in disaster. Very much flirting with it, to say the absolute least. Forsyth in the lead. Just Sant on the inside, Pinheiro to the high line again, but he's got to get his nose down. He's got to get to that inside line as much as he can in order to have any chance to hang on to this race lead. But you can't keep up with the amount of cars in shot. There's just so many. Even if you had 6 fingers of hand, you would be able to do it.
Absolutely. So you've got to be keeping that inside line coming towards the line on turn 4. It seems maybe because the outside line Pinheiro, he had the lead, but they lose about maybe 3-4 car lengths over the course of a lap. As you can see there, the orange car on the high line, he was in the lead at one moment, but it's just so much longer up there and you can't do it. But if you get a run, you get a push from someone else, then you can definitely make it towards the front. Coming here in towards turn 3, as that is happening once again, is that maybe Mario Newsom on the outside trying to make it work in that third pack, and it seems to be the place to make the overtakes there is on that outside line coming towards turn 3, but Sant is still leading the way, being pushed along there. Forsyth in the middle in that blue and white car, and then Pinheiro on the outside.
I can't wait to see what the final lap is going to be. 8 to go, as they cross the start-finish line once again. 8 to go, so we've got 7 laps until that all-decisive final lap. Because right now, as it has been for the entirety of this race so far, ebbing and flowing, so fluctuative as they run through, none of the moves really matter at this point in time until they get to that final lap. That's when we're going to see some desperate moves of people trying their absolute hardest to carve their way through, and that's probably where we're going to see a bit of argy-bargy, maybe a pretty big crash as well as they cross the line. But for now, everyone just trying to settle in and, position themselves for that final lap.
Absolutely. Pinheiro once again is having to have a bit of a look. He's being pushed back now down into 8th place, and you can see he's in 5th gear here. He's trying to use that the RPM there, but you'll see when they get into 6th gear, and especially onto the final couple of laps, no one is going to be lifting the throttle if they can avoid it. And look at the tower. It is going up and down, up and down. Places changing. Forsyth tries to get pushed towards the front, actually, on that outside line in that second lane, with Van Sant still leading the way, and Sanders is trying to push his way through. Likens there a little bit further behind, 7th place and 3rd in that mid pack, and it is pretty crazy how quickly things can change around here. 6 to go at the line, and they are just changing every few meters.
Yeah, it's incredible. 3-4 wide at some places. I don't know how anyone can keep up with this. Oh no, there's Pinheiro, a huge crash, cars spinning all over the place. Big crash with 6 to go. Yellow flags being brought out with some big names being taken out there. Oh my word, Forsyth, damaged cars that are not in any condition to be on a racetrack at all. Those front tires have seen better days for sure, but again, that is all it took. One snap, one bit of contact, and the Constantina effect, everyone just ended up in the barrier.
That is how fine the limits are around here. Just one little moment, one tiny little bit of contact, and the cars go around. Unfortunately, the number 13 there of Jeff Murray being one of the damaged cars in that. Let's see, 4 wide is going to be as you come through turns number 1 here. Bit of contact there for Scythe going into Pinheiro. Demage got involved there as well, and a couple of other cars a little bit further up also getting involved. And unfortunately, Jeff Murray couldn't avoid any of the other cars, as we're seeing about probably 6-7 cars involved in that one. Pinheiro, Demage, Forsyth, Murray all out of the race, but I'm pretty sure there was someone else involved in that. Let's see that again. Let's look at the orange cars. There's a little bit of contact as we come through the tri-oval section, and there's Pinheiro going to the outside, Forsyth there in the middle. Bit of contact potentially in that mid part of the pack as well. 4 wide is just an almost impossible situation for everyone to come out on top.
Yeah, even if you're Spider-Man, you are not reacting to that fast enough. And even if you could, your car definitely won't, because if you turn to the right, that suddenly you are ending up in the barrier, whether you hit anyone else or not. Squeezing through. That is fine, but they've managed to get away with it, then pulling to the outside and going for the lead on this high line, then just gets tagged round, complete passenger, and there's just nothing you can do. As soon as that's happened, you just have to sit and hope that you don't collect it. But you have to say, as soon as you've been tagged round, you just know that your race is over at that point.
It is always so crazy to see these crashes and just how quickly the car can go from being so stable at, you know, well over 200 miles an hour to then being in the barrier and having, that was a huge hit from Demage as well, spinning around multiple times there in the mid-pack. And there is Jeff Murray in the green. He'd already lost the wheels, and that's why he couldn't steer to avoid any of the other carnage as well. But that was a huge hit for some of those drivers. And once again, that changes the order. 4 to go, so 3 at the line. And I don't know if we're going to be going back to green flags, so we may only get 2 laps. And as it stands, Alexander Van der Sant leading the way for Akabuzi there in that yellow car. Gavin Sanders in 3rd place, with Alexis Newsom in 4th, and Archambault has got himself up into 5th place.
Yeah, it's really been a time in Tower that we wouldn't probably have expected this time on sort of about lap 4 or 5, even sort of to the restart of the first caution. We probably would have expected it to be looking like this, but Alexis Newsom was sort of a front runner early on and came into the pits quite early, and that might have sort of benefited them in the long run, being able to be towards sort of the further back of the pack, and then sort of being able to react to the carnage and chaos. I do just hope none of those involved were in VR, because that is motion sickness at its absolute finest, especially for the car that ended up pirouetting sort of 4 or 5 times. That is not going to be pretty at all. But yeah, as you say, with the pace car out, with the caution being called, only a couple laps left to go, and if they're that feisty with 6 to go, 2 to go, where everything now matters, you know, what is that going to be, 1 minute and 20 seconds of racing action left, they're going to start getting a bit desperate.
Never lift when you get to this point at a super speedway, especially. You need to be going as fast as you can, trying to get a run like we saw Pinheiro do a couple of times, but you can just see how close it is to danger. And of course, we don't want to sort of finish under caution or anything like that, so hopefully we can get some nice green flag racing to the end. It looks like we might be getting another lap around, which is going to be important, of course, because that is another lap of batting for these drivers. And if we get 2 laps to go, Zach, I think that would be lined up for a great finish. But somehow, out of everything that has happened, Van der Sant has kept himself towards the front of this field, which is certainly easier said than done. So he's certainly got that consistency, but can he make it work with a couple of laps under green?
Oh, it's going to be tricky, but Van der Sant has been the only person that has remained sort of in that top 3, top 4 fight throughout this race. You know, Aaron Likens has been up there, Pinheiro was up there, but got involved in that crash. Van der Sant has only been the only one of them that has been up there for the entirety of the race, has kept his nose clean. Of course, that's not everyone's fault. There's going to be an element of luck in that and things like that with caution timing and crashes and all this, that, and the other. But Van der Sant's still been there. That's no discredit to him at all, because he's been phenomenal. But it does depend on what those around him, the likes of Hamilton, Akabuzi, just in behind, Gavin Sanders, Alexis Newsom, Laurent Archambault, those are sort of in the top 5 fight, really are going to be the main contenders to look out for come the final couple of laps. But I would say don't count out anything. I think Van der Sande is perfectly poised to take this win. He was definitely going to be hoping to after sort of the position that he's been sort of handed to with Pinheiro and Likens being sort of dropped down a little bit further back. Pinheiro completely out of this race, of course. But yeah, I don't count out any possibility whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to predict, that is for sure. We've seen the overspeed that can happen when you're 2-3 cars further back in the slipstream. You can just make up so many car lengths around here, and at the end of the day, you just need to be the one getting your nose to the finish line first. And all the drivers going on the high line in a single file fashion. So is this an indicator that we are going green? I think it might be, with 2 laps to go here at Talladega. What a week 9 of this season 4 it has been for the RaceSpot Friday night prime time. They'll be voting once again, of course, for the race next week for week 10 already. Just 3 weeks to go in the season, and you can vote for what category we are showing on your screens, and that of course is on the Discord. Get yourself involved and get yourself in this action potentially by being in that top split. 2 to go here for week 9 though at Talladega, and let's see if Van der Sande can hold on to it for this final couple of laps sprint, or maybe Akabuzi, someone else behind, getting that race victory. We are about to find out coming through the tri-oval for 2 laps to go. Van der Sande waiting and waiting until we get to the restart zone where he can go flat out, and we saw in the previous restart that it didn't seem to work by getting a good jump, and it has actually worked in his favor. Potentially not the best start. Akabuzi can start pushing him along, but look at all the drivers in the background getting the run, getting that slipstream, and let's see if Van der Sande can hold on to this onto the back straight. Akabuzi there in that second place. Sanders trying to make him move, but actually Akabuzi moves out already to try and make a move for the race victory. Race lead. 1 lap to go. The line. Who is going to come out on top?
Van der Sande committed to that inside line, though. We've seen that's been so present. There's Alexis Newsom up into the race lead, then down to the low side of the circuit. Brilliant stuff from him there. Perfectly now. 1 lap to go. 4 corners in this race. And already coming right back at him. 40 seconds in this race. It's all boiled down to this. Cars everywhere. Big crash in the background. Oh my word, he's been able to stay high and keep himself out of the way. Van der Sande back into the lead, but Alexis Newsom hammering that pressure.
He certainly is. Oh, big crash in the background. 3 cars remain in this final pack at the front. Huge crash there in turn 1 on this final lap of the race. Van der Sande in the purple car leading the way. Newsom on the outside. Akabuzi also getting the slipstream, trying to make it 3 wide as we come towards the front. Newsom is getting towards the front there as we're getting the checker flag on the screen. Is that going to continue? Let's see if it does. It's Van der Sande on the inside there. Newsom coming towards the line out of turn 4. The slipstream is getting faster and faster between the two as we go through the tri-oval. There's still a few meters to go before the finish line, and let's see how it's going to come out on top. Is it going to be Van der Sande? It might just be Newcomb Akabuzi. Interesting to see from that angle. Might have been Akabuzi actually getting the run towards the line. That was so close between the 3 of them. What a finish at Talladega.
Heart on your mouth, staff. Alexis Newsom by our live timing by 2 1,000ths of a second. Our top 3 separated by 16 thousandths of a second. That's nothing. That is absolutely nothing, but it's the difference between our podium. 3 wide photo finish for the victory on the last lap. What more could you have asked for? That big crash just wiped everyone out apart from our top 3 and of course Kevin Birrell to round off the top 4. But wow, what a finish. What a barnstorming finish that was, and what a barnstorming race that was as well.
Yeah, Newsom having a pretty eventful race today in that red and white machine. Up and down the order a little bit, but getting to the front when it mattered. And that was a big final lap from him. Getting to the front, then Van der Sande coming back, and Akabuzi even getting the double slipstream towards the line. But as you say, by 2,000ths of a second, which is mere inches at this speed, Newsom managed to hold on. Van der Sande dropping down to 3rd. He'll be very, I think, disappointed with that one, losing out in the end by 16 thousandths of a second. And pretty crazy that in the end it was Kevin Birrell getting 4th, 3/10 back, but then it was 4 seconds to Evan Adams. Such was the big carnage. Let's see what happened here. Coming through the tri-over, there's already some contact. Likens going into the wall, but that was not the end of it. There will be more crashes a little bit further down the pack into turn 1 and 2 as well. 4 wide we were there in the middle as there's more cars getting involved. Pretty much everyone just got collected in that one. All the cars there involved, and that is a shame to see them all finish there. I think Sanders just a little bit bit of contact on the inside of the red car. Orange car is also getting difficult to point out exactly who it is, but yeah, Zach, huge crash there in turn 1.
Yeah, well, we were expecting it really coming on to the final lap of the race. Everyone jostling for position, nothing in it at all. And all it takes is the smallest of things, as we saw earlier on. It doesn't take much at all to bring the most catastrophic of consequences. But this is the fight. Van der Sande on the inside. Newsom, there you can see she is just trying her absolute best to thread the needle and keep it pointing in the right way, because we saw there with Akabuzi on the outside, not then being able to catapult himself up into the race lead, but then tucking him behind. The long run allowed him to get the drive. Etching her nose ahead was Newsom. It was nothing between them. To the visible eye, you would say it was a tie, but there was the most marginal thing, a hair across the line. And wow, you just, again, we have to see it from this angle to even have a chance, is to see slow motion. There goes Akabuzi pulling out as late as possible to the right-hand side with the speed, proper piston cup style. This is 3 wide across the line. Wow, I'm speechless.
That is an awesome finish there. And that is why we love Talladega, with the start-finish line being so far out of turn 4. You can really get a run, really get a push. And just what an insane finish that could have been for Akabuzi. But in the end, by 2,000 of a second, it was Alexis Newcomb there getting the win for the Mid-South. And then Akabuzi getting second place, followed by Van der Sande in third. Kevin Birrell and Evan Adams rounding out the top 5, before we see a huge 26-second gap to Archambault there, who was obviously the one who managed to come out on top of all that carnage on that final lap. Morales and Irwin Jr. rounding out the top 8, with Sanders and Earnhardt there, or Earnhardt I should say, in the top 10. Hudson and King rounding out the top 12, with Jan Bianco. Some of these drivers, we didn't even really mention them today. Just was how crazy was that battle at the front. Likens dropping to 15th in the end, with Lichtenberg 16th. Forsyth will be disappointed to get 17th there in the number 17 machine. Pinheiro had such a good run, but unfortunately getting collected by the likes of Demage there in that big crash, and Jeff Murray also losing a couple of wheels in 20th place. Strickland unfortunately involved in that the previous caution midway through the race, and Franzoni only getting 2 laps in, with King getting the fastest lap on lap 31 on a 27.65. But that was some crazy hectic action here from Talladega, week 9 of season 4 for 2022, and it is just going to continue with the final 3 races of the season. You are voting for what we're doing on RaceSpot Friday night primetime. Get your votes in on the RaceSpot Discord, and you will see what is going to happen. But that's been it from us here this week. Crazy action. Let's see what happens next week. Get your votes in, and you yourself could be on the grid as well. We thank you for watching though, and we wish you a very warm goodbye.